Hi, my name is Deborah Shalette Wilson, and welcome to the School of Soul and getting to know the School of Soul with
Ann Rudolphs
and
Kathy McCommon.
Welcome back to our second video in the series of Getting to Know the School of Soul. And today's video is about the question of what is the soul? So who would like to go first?
It's a deep subject.
It's a very deep subject, and everybody has their ideas about it. We're going to share ours today.
Well, I will say that one of the things that I find with my own clients when I'm teaching them how to hear the voice of their soul, because our souls do have voices, seems to be a confusion there as to what that voice sounds like. So I guess that I'll just give a little bit of a little teaching here is that whenever you hear a loud booming voice like, don't do that, stop, you shouldn't be doing that, that's usually not the soul. The soul speaks in a very soft, quiet voice. Are you sure you should be doing that? Have you thought that out? The soul is always gentle. It never gives us more information than we can handle. And it reveals exactly what we need if you know how to hear your soul.
Now, I have a little different experience, Kathy, because to me, the soul is soft when we're not wanting to hear it. And for most of us, we don't. We've got our own plans, our own agenda, and we're afraid of our souls because they might want to take us somewhere that we think we don't want to go there. And, which is silly because the soul is us. To me, the soul is what embodies this physical existence. It's the heart and mind. It is both whole, being connected to spirit, it must be whole, but also being in this world, it must also be fragmented. That's what our world does to us. It fragments our soul. As I talked about in the last video, the masculine being separated from the feminine being separated from the masculine. And so that's the problem, is getting the soul to pick up the missing pieces and to be whole within this body.
And how I see the soul is a little different too. I was reminded though of when I was a young girl, and I was living in a family situation that was very traumatic. And it was like I had this connection, a stronger connection with my soul that gave me a lot of guidance to help me navigate a lot of the trauma I was dealing with. And unfortunately, I can remember still when I got to be a teenager, I decided I wasn't listening to that anymore, and I wasn't listening to anybody but me. And I was going to do everything my way. Well, let's just say I had a lot of experiences after that, and I've learned a lot from it. And one of the things I've learned is my soul and my connection to that part of myself is bringing myself back to what I consider the part of me that's whole, perfect, and complete. It's eternal. It comes into this body. It has a different vibratory rate, and that essence or that energy is kind of hard to put into words, but it comes into this body, and the traumas and things that I experience become distractions. It's kind of things that cover me up and keep me from being able to hear that part of myself. And so becoming more soulful in the world, to me, is what's missing. And that's the SOS of the School of Soul, is we need to have more soulfulness within each other. And then that's going to help us be able to be more solution focused, I think, because the soul knows a lot of things and there's a lot of wisdom. Plus that soul is connected to something that, we call lots of names. I call it uni. That's my term I came up with to help me get past some of the beliefs that I've been brought up with and indoctrinated into about what this essence was. And it stands for Universal Network Intelligence, and it's so that's kind of my concept of this higher power that I'm connected, I'm part of, everyone's a part of, and I'm connected to that aspect in myself but my human part of me, and especially the traumas and things, take me down a different pathway. It takes me into survival mode is what I call it. And so as long as I stay stuck in survival mode, I don't hear that voice. I just hear my own and go, I know what I'm doing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And, I have to admit, I have had a lot of learning lessons, and so my wisdom as a human being has increased. And my soul's just like, whenever you're ready, I'm here. If you want to go a different way. So that's part of this, of where the School of Soul came from. It's really about whatever we call that this, and whatever words we use trying to describe this invisible conversation that we're having with this invisible aspect of who we are connected to, and another invisible something that created everything. That's what we need more of in our individual lives, and so that we can express more soulfulness in the world.
And you talk about soul expression. In my experience, just like the human voice can be very soft, and it can be really loud, hey, when it needs to be. Our soul is the same way. And if we're consistently not hearing it, it gets louder and louder, as in expressing itself through body symptoms, disabilities, degenerative disease, even death.
That is true.
We're killing ourselves.
The soul will express itself loudly if we're not listening. And if you'll notice, we're, as a society, we have a lot of disease, unexplained disease. And we're finding in the School of Soul, as we begin to study the many aspects of how the soul manifests itself in our bodies and in the world, we are learning that our bodies are carrying these vibrational energies, and they're storing these unhealthy energies that are spilling out on our streets and spilling out in our social media. So the world right now is in a place, humanity's in a place where listening to the soul could not be more important. It's because we don't live in a bubble just ourselves. We live in a global consciousness, a global vibrational field. So how we feel and how we perceive the world and how we respond to the world and those around us not only affect us, but they affect the entire world. The world will not be healed until we can learn to hear our soul speak, which is the universal knowledge and the universal mind.
And because our souls have been fragmented in our experience and we're clinging to just a part of ourselves, all these other parts are trying to get our attention, that we welcome them and embrace them as us. And if we're not willing to hear it in here, they come with the people around us, manifesting what is going on internally.
Mirroring.
Dynamics. Yes. And most people aren't aware of that. They get upset. The idiot, the jerk, when they are parts of ourselves.
I can tell a little story here with an acquaintance. And she had a lot of betrayal in her marriage. And she was angry with her spouse for the betrayal. And when she began to look back through all of her relationships, she was able to track that each relationship had some element of betrayal. And it went all the way back to her father, who left her and betrayed her when she was young. But what we were able to establish was that this betrayal energy that had followed her throughout her life actually lay inside of her. She betrayed herself. And the world manifested this own betrayal through these various relationships. This was a huge aha for her. It was like, oh my word, I'm actually creating this betrayal from inside. But how many people are willing to take responsibility for that? It's much easier to take a victim consciousness attitude. I'm a victim of betrayal. But once you begin to do the soul work, you realize that it lies within you, and your world is just reflecting what's inside of you.
Yeah, and I'm out of my own experience when, my first marriage there was a lot of abuse that went on. And when I got out of it, I realized that my part of the responsibility in that relationship was I kept staying and putting up with it. So it was like giving that person permission to continue to do it to me. So, taking responsibility for my part in that relationship was very, very freeing. And then I also began to realize that I need to accept the good, bad, ugly, warts and all of my experiences. And that's really set me free, because resisting those things creates an energy and a vibration within me that keeps me in survival mode, where I'm fighting or trying to run away from things. It's kind of like, I remember one time having this experience of realizing, oh, I moved, but now I'm having the same experiences I had and the same problems before where I was living. And I'm like, oh, well, what's the common denominator? Oh, I took me with me. So wherever I go, there I was.
Yeah.
So being able to, to really connect and accept my role, it doesn't mean that people didn't do whatever they did. And it's not that I'm denying that, but it's looking at what I have the power to change in my own life, because I don't have the power to change other people, but I do have the power to look within and become aware of my own responsibility and my own actions.
So we're not recreating
that.
our trauma, constantly recreating our trauma,
Yes.
with our relationships and our choices. And Ann, you've spoken so much about that cycle, that wheel, and how that manifests in our lives. I always enjoy hearing you speak about that. Would you say something
Well,
about that?
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. I also have an extremely traumatic background, so I don't in any way want to say that we're dismissing trauma, because people can be horribly victimized. I know I was. And this is what the trauma drove me to, this constant, why is this still happening? And just being in prayer daily. How can I make this stop? It was absolutely devastating, until I suddenly realized that what was happening to me was what I was doing to my own soul. And then that's when the penny dropped. But it took agonizing years for me to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we'll be getting more into detail in those in the coming videos that we'll be doing. We will take you deeper and deeper into the things that we have come to realize, and from listening to our soul and the way that our souls have guided us into this new awareness, to where we have more boundless freedoms in our lives and are, living, maybe you could say, beyond our wildest dreams. So we look forward to sharing those things with you. And again, thank you for getting to know the School of Soul and each one of us. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.